Hello, everyone. I'm Maura Collins, and I'm here with Brian Lynch to do our first interview. And thank you for coming today. It's really a big deal for all of us, so just thank you for that.
That's nice of you to say. Thank you. Thank you for asking me to do this. It's really fun.
So, my first question is, in what section of Middletown did you grow up in?
I grew up in Lincroft, just kind of near the fire station, if that helps. I walked at the end of the day, like my friends and I, like, do you want to walk to Acme? Because that's all we could do before we could drive. So like right around there, right around that area.
Yeah,
My
I know.
parents are still there, by the way, too.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So, since you went to South, can you tell me your overall experience with the school? Do you have any memories that you're fond of that you'd like to share?
Sure. I love going to South. The people I met there really made an impact on me as a person and what I do still. It took all of like a couple months to find the other kids there that were interested in film. So it was fun. My friend Vin Pereira, who eventually directed a movie, and my friend Santo and my friend Tom, we would make shorts after school, and that's the best memory of South I have. I love the classes. I love my classmates, and I had a bunch of art teachers and that were really supportive and of what I did. And without them, I don't know if I would have continued to without their encouragement. But it was definitely Vin, Santo, Tom, my friend Jake. We would make movies after school. We talk about them in school, and then we'd go and we'd shoot them on video and edit them together. And that was my best memory. I also wrote and drew comic books that my dad would print at work, and I'd bring them into school, and I would sell them at school. And it was like all the kids there were like, that kind of became over the course of the last 2 years at school what I was known for doing, like Brian, where are the comics, and that was really fun too. And because of that, I was encouraged, and I still write and draw comics today. So that
Uh,
was like, yeah. If you look at like my notebooks from even in college, like there's a little notes, but everything else is just doodles because I love to draw. I
yeah.
still, even at work when I have like note meetings, it's mostly just drawings.
Yeah. So when you went to LA, it seems that like a lot of people from New Jersey seem to do well once they move there. So do you think there's any advantage of being from New Jersey once you move to LA? Do you feel like there's any like help there?
Well, you know what? I don't know for everybody. I think for me, definitely, in that the guy I mentioned at school that I met named Vin, he worked with Kevin Smith, who had just started thinking about doing a movie on his own, and Vin helped Kevin make Clerks. I met Kevin through Vin, and I helped him make Chasing Amy. I just did like craft service production, but Kevin funded a $30,000 movie that I wrote and directed. So it was basically New Jersey was great for creative stuff like and the people, but in terms of helping with my career, it was definitely Kevin and Vin. If I didn't live in New Jersey, I wouldn't have met them. And I think it's kind of cool in our town. There's always, less so now because Kevin's moved out here, but he still goes home a lot. There was always a chance in town running into Kevin, and he was always ready to talk to people about what they did, and that's really cool. I knew Kevin and I still do on a really friendly level, but I can't imagine what it would be like for someone to be a fan of his, run into him just in town, like going to Jack's Music, and Kevin would be there, and you could have like a conversation with him, and he'd be more than willing to talk to you about it. And I think that kind of stuff's cool. I also think just it's really weird how many talented people are from New Jersey. Like for
Yeah.
like I have if I like the movie I made for No Money with Kevin, we had auditions, and there was a lot of unknown people, and now all those unknown people are doing very well. It's very strange. Like one of the actors was Brian Quinn, who's one of the Impractical Jokers. Like he wasn't famous at that point. The other one, the female lead is Lorene Scafaria. She lived in Homedale, and she went on to direct Seeking a Friend for the End of the World and the Jennifer Lopez movie last year, Hustlers. It was crazy. New Jersey's it's like a talent magnet. I don't know. It's really
Yeah.
cool.
I want to move on to more of like the roots of your career.
Sure.
So, how'd you find your way into the film industry and writing in general?
The earliest stuff is definitely like playing with toys and coming up with elaborate stories for the toys, and then turning that into like, I'm going to write a book about it now. And I wrote a book, and then I got a screenplay, and I learned how to write a screenplay. I had written my first one by junior year in high school. It was terrible. Like it was, I shouldn't, it's not like I'm going to sell it, but I learned the structure of how to write. And I also, like I said before, with Santo and Vin and Tom, I sought out the people that wanted to do it as well. And I would give them copies of the script. They'd give me notes. We'd shoot scenes and see what works and what's funny. It's always just about finding the people that encourage you to do what you do, and help you get better. That's the most important thing, for sure.
So, what were your main struggles when it came to getting your name out there? And what advice would you give to aspiring filmmakers right now?
Thanks to Kevin. Kevin introduced me to his agent, and I showed him like 5 scripts that I wrote, because by the time people wanted to read my stuff, I had written a ton. That's the best advice I can give, by the way, is just keep writing and writing, and for practice, and so you have a lot of samples when they go, well, what can you write? And I wound up selling 15 or 16 scripts that never got made. So it was really fun in the sense that, like, I was in New Jersey and they'd fly me out to California and I'd have fun meetings, and it was a great way to make a living. And I met a lot of great people out here. But the main goal when you're creative is you want to make it, and you want people to see it, to experience it. And that step didn't happen. It was going, like, for years I'd work on a movie, and then suddenly it just would, like, for whatever reason, there was one where I sold a movie and I was going to write and direct a horror movie, and it almost got pushed to production. And then they were like, well, it's either this one or another horror movie. There's only one slot available. And they went with the other one. It was always a reason like that. So the hardest hurdle for me was getting it to that next step. And I think what changed was my agent sat me down, and it was like, after 10 years of living in New Jersey and flying in for meetings, he said, everyone wants to work with you and it's going great and you're selling stuff, but for those next steps that actually get the movie made, you need to be in the room with the executives. You need to, for meetings, it's so much easier. So come out to California for a while and see how it goes. And I went with a plan to come out for like 3 or 4 years, and it went very well. And I stayed out here. I think that the first movie I got made that I worked on was Hop, and then the second one was Minions. And I think neither one of those would have happened if I was still in New Jersey, because they want to be in the creative people, like the director and the producers and the actors, like I got to sit in with them and help make it funnier. It wouldn't have worked on the phone. But if I had gone to California immediately, I don't think I would have. I needed that 10 years of learning who I was as a writer, and making mistakes. And also I find that in New Jersey, as opposed to California, in California, when you have a conversation with someone, almost everyone out here is working in the business. So your conversations tend to be about that. Whereas in New Jersey, I experienced life more, if that makes sense. And like, I had more experiences, where out here, I have great friends and I meet a lot of people, but I'm still pulling on the experiences from New Jersey when I'm talking about stories and feelings and emotions. Now that I have a kid and a wife, I'm pulling on those emotions as well. So that's easy. But the biggest struggle was actually getting it made. It was no problem selling it. People liked the draft of the script and they liked the idea, but it was definitely that one step of, okay, we're going all in on it. That was the hardest thing.
My next question is, how does your writing process work? Can you guide us through that?
Well, it used to be that I'd have an idea and I'd be like, I'm just going to write it. And I'd immediately just start writing the script. And that meant that it was really funny, but like, I didn't think through the character arcs and and how the characters changed throughout the movie and the themes of the movie. When I started working at Illumination, they wanted to see an outline first. And that's a detailed, not funny summary of what the whole movie is going to be. And that forced me to come up with the character arcs and the themes. And if it, usually when I just wrote the script, I could mask the fact that some character stuff wasn't there yet because I could make it funny. But in an outline, you have to have it all ready, and then you can make it funny. And that has helped my writing process a lot. So it's a couple months, usually about maybe a month and a half of writing a very detailed outline. Kind of the least fun part of the process, because it's a lot of like, I think I'm done for the night. And then I oh no, wait, I have to go back and change this. What about this? I forgot about this problem. But by the time that's done, writing the script is 10 times more fun, because I know where everything's going and I know what should stay and what should go. And it's a lot of fun. So it's outline, and then 2 months of writing the script and I'm done.
Okay, so I know that I remember in one of your other interviews, you said something like when you were younger, you didn't really watch that many animated movies or animated
It's
shows,
true.
and you ended up on this path where you're writing for all of them.
Sure.
So, with your experience now, what about writing for children's animated movies feels more rewarding to you rather than writing for live action films?
That's a great question. I specifically and personally right now it's seeing my 7.5-year-old see my movies. That's amazing to me. But his mom works on Star Wars and he's starting to get into Star Wars. So I'm starting to become a little less cool because I don't work with Star Wars. But on a bigger level, there's a lot less comedy films being made nowadays. It's mostly like Marvel and DC and Star Wars. And so comedy, seeing a comedy in a movie theater is one of the best experiences if it's a good comedy, because it's just you know what it's like. It's like everybody's laughing together and like you can't hear some of the dialogue because it's so like everybody's enjoying themselves. The energy is great. A lot of live action comedies aren't being made right now. A lot of the good comedies are animated. And if I want to keep making comedic movies, and I do, you kind of have to lean towards animation. So like when I worked on Secret Life of Pets 1, it was, have you ever seen Planes, Trains, and Automobiles?
I know of it.
It's great. You should see it. If your parents think you're old enough, you should see it. It's a really funny movie, just about two guys. One's like an uptight guy. One's like a wacky guy who kind of can't take a hint, and he just constantly gets the other guy's face. And they have to travel together. And over the course of it, they become really good friends. While I was writing Secret Life of Pets 1, that was the inspiration for it. I'm like, so when I was writing it, I wasn't thinking of it as an animated movie. I was thinking about these two guys and like the journey they're on. Secret Life of Pets 2 is completely just about my insecurities as a father. So like, even though it's a talking dog, like it was still like, I still got to handle and address things that were in my head in a movie comedy. It just happens to be animated. And also the best thing about animation is you can keep working on a scene until you love it. Like live action, you shoot it and you edit it and you have no choices. This one, they keep redrawing it and storyboarding it, revoicing until everybody's happy.
So, what work are you most proud of?
It's funny. I love like literally if any of my movies are on TV, there's never like I should probably have that moment where like, oh, that's not that good. Like I'm proud of it because I know like every battle that I had to get in to make everything like on screen. I I love the two Pets movies a lot. The Pets one was an interesting one because somebody else, two really brilliant guys had written the first couple drafts of it, and they moved on to another project. And I hadn't finished Minions yet, and I was so tired from Minions because it was a 2.5 year thing. And Chris Meledandri, who's the head of Illumination, said, "Would you think about rewriting Secret Life of Pets?" And I thought I was empty. I thought I had no ability in the tank at this point. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna write it and I'm gonna make myself laugh. And if they don't like it, they can get somebody else. I'm tired. And I wrote it and it worked. And I think that's the most me I've gotten into a movie because I just kept writing whatever I found funny. And then the second movie, they were like, well, what do you want to make it about? I'm like, I kind of have to make it about a father because it's all I'm thinking about right now because my kid was 2 at that point, and he plays the voice of the little kid in the movie. So I'm really proud of that too. Like, so I have this movie that I made with my son, and we'll always have that together. It was on TV recently. I'm like, oh, Henry, that's the movie we made together. And he's like, oh my God, he's so excited. He wants a toy made of his character. They didn't make one. And he's a little upset about that, but that's okay. So I think that the two Pets movies, and also just like the kids books I wrote called Toy Academy, I really love. Anything that like when you watch it, I can feel the parts that are me, that are, if anyone else had written it, that it would be different. And I feel that a lot in Pets 1 and Pets 2 for sure.
Like staying on the topic of like being proud of your work. Oh, I'm curious, what's it like to have extremely well-known actors such as Kevin Hart, Michael Keaton, Steve Carell, and tons of other well-respected actors and actresses voice your words?
I can't believe it. Like I can't. It's crazy to me. Like, first of all, Michael Keaton is my favorite actor of all time. Like he always has been. So when we were trying to cast that part, I was like, "What about Michael Keaton?" And they're like, "Okay." And I'm like, "Wait, what? It's that easy?" So they called him. And he's like, "Yeah, I'll do it." I'm like, "Wait, what's happening?" Like, and then he started emailing me. So like now I email Michael Keaton, and it's weird. I love working with the actors because not only do I know they're gonna, if I'm not confident in a line, I know they'll get there because they're so funny. It is so much fun with the actors who want to play in the room and work on stuff until it's funny. My first exposure to it was Russell Brand on Hop. And Russell was at that point was like the biggest thing. He's still wonderful, but he had just launched his career, I think, with Forgetting Sarah Marshall. So like he was everywhere. And I was really intimidated to meet him. And he was the sweetest, nicest guy. And with every line, he was like, and not in a bad way, he was just like, let's make this, what about, let's find the funniest version. And we'd come up with 5 really funny lines for every line. And not only that, he talked through his process. So I just learned about comedy from him. And the same thing with Kevin Hart was like, I'll see him go and he'll talk about like, oh, what if we try this? What if we try this? And I've learned from that. Like I just learned from watching him and coming up with jokes. And I mean it, there is no greater feeling than when actor or actress that you respect or like, I can't believe they're in the room, look at me and go like, that's a great line. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? Like Steve Carell said that to me. And he's like, I mean, The Office and his character in The Office are all time, like top 5 for me of characters and shows. And he was like, when we finally met over it, we actually met on the Despicable Me ride. I wrote the ride. And that's the first thing we worked on together. And he's like, this is much better written than most rides. And then like, that was our introduction. I'm like, oh my God. So they introduced us and he's the sweetest, nicest guy. So it's an honor. It's really an honor to work with those people. And the only problem is sometimes if they're not happy with a line, you feel terrible because it's that person from movies that you love and they're not happy with you. Like, so that stinks. So I try to go in with like 5 or 6 alternate lines for every line in case they have a problem with it. So it's wonderful. The days we get to record are so fun, and I'm so tired by the end because we're just coming up with new stuff on the fly. I'll also say this is, I wish we could just keep making Pets movies for the rest of our lives. I don't know if they're going to make another one, but because that group of people are the nicest group of people I've worked with. They are so sweet. And they're also like, it's just like an all-star list of comedy. Like it's Dana Carvey, Albert Brooks was in the first one. It's amazing. Eric Stonestreet from Modern Family is the most normal person you'll ever meet. And then he gets in the booth and he's the funniest person. Like it's a wonderful group of people. You know who Jenny Slate is? She does the Gidget in Pets. She and Lake Bell, who does Chloe in Pets, could honestly voice a movie on their own because they each can do a billion voices and each one sounds completely different and their ad libs are hilarious. Like honestly, you could just put them in a room and go like, I don't know, here's one idea and they'll give you 2 hours worth of comedy from it. It's great.
I have this question here. It's mainly to help like all of us that are trying to get to basically where you are right now. Yeah. So what would you say was the biggest component to becoming as successful as you are today?
Wow, that's a hard question. Okay, I think it was what I said before. I think it was writing all the time, having people that you value their opinion read it, and also finding actors, even if they're not the best actors, just like friends that will read it out loud, so you can hear it. You can hear it back, and you can change it depending on that. So writing nonstop, like have too many scripts done. Write whenever you can. The other thing is I learned that it's really important because I've met so many talented people out here that don't go to that next step because they don't listen, if that makes sense. Like in a meeting, and it sounds funny because in school, like I was like, I don't need to listen, but like when you get notes from a studio, listen to why they're giving you the notes and like what they want from it and work with the people. Because I've met a lot of people out here that were just like, well, this is my vision and like I'm not changing for them. I'm like, well, then you're not getting your movie made. And there was a point when I was younger where I would, if I disagreed, I'd be like, no, here's why you're wrong. And you can kind of say that. You can go like, well, here's why that might not work. But if you just immediately go like, no, like people want to work with people that are nice to work with. So just be nice and listen and write nonstop. If you want to be a writer, just write all the time.
Yeah, just practicing.
Yes, practice. It sounds boring, but if you practice every time, you'll get better.
Yeah,
absolutely.
If you love to do it, then it's not much of work.
That's true. That's absolutely true. There was like at the end of the day when I would work at like a convenience store and I'd go home and write. It was like that was better than like watching TV or going to a movie. You get to create out of nothing. It's a great experience. I love it.
I'm really excited to get in that field. I'm excited for that experience.
You want to write animated stuff?
I want to do a lot of things with film, but I'd like to get into animation, maybe work with Disney. I love directing, so I'd love to be able to do that someday.
Awesome. Yeah, that's the next for me. That's what I would like to try next. Like I've done shorts at Illumination, but directing's really great because you're at every step. You know it. It's like you're at every you're helping with them figure out the music and working with the actors. Yeah, no, it's great. It's awesome.
So I have one last question to leave off on. And is there anything that you're working on or just finished that we can expect to see soon that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I'm going into I can't announce a couple things because they're kind of like they're not official yet, but the one that my name is on that's coming out next, it was supposed to be out this summer, but it was Minions 2. I helped get the story figured out and the arc of the thing, and then I kind of went over to Pets 2. I couldn't do both at the same time. But Minions 2 came out great. It's like a 70s kung fu movie, but with minions, and it's really well done. So I can't wait for people to see that. Other than that, like I'm working on another Toy Academy book and a couple TV shows that I can't say yet, but I promise if you want to do another interview after I have said it, then I will for sure. But yeah, so I'm always trying to write.
So that's all that I have right now. Thank you so much for being here. Everyone at South will really appreciate it. So.
Oh, that's great. I love South. This is so cool. Okay, thank you.